I'm telling you, man, for me, it's funnel cake.
Really? Because last year you said the main course on the 4th of July should be a Reuben sandwich.
Yes, but funnel cake isn't a main course, it's dessert. And I can go on DoorDash and get a delicious Reuben sandwich delivered. I can't exactly get a nice, hot, warm funnel cake sent here.
What are you guys talking about?
Oh, nothing. Just what we miss most about the 4th of July in a post COVID world.
What's the 4th of July?
It's a holiday celebrating the birth of America as we know it.
Which occurred on September 17th, 1787.
No. That would be July 4th, 1776.
No, that was just the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which was really a retroactive declaration of war with England. The war didn't end until the Treaty of Paris. That was signed on September 3rd, 1783, at which point they entered a period where they existed as sort of a loose confederation stage with mutual defense and some limited trade agreements. But that wasn't working out so well, which led to public demand for a stronger central government with more clear and defined powers that would differentiate it from the British monarchy. But if you had a computer brain like someone here does, you would know that.
Oh man, I
Smooth
feel
brain.
like I'm back in 10th grade social studies all over again.
You liked that class?
Yeah, but my teacher made the material seem fresh and interesting. Nick sounds like Ben Stein reading a Charlie Brown cyclopedia after chugging a bottle of Xanax.
In those days, you didn't have a package deal with the president and their VPs. Adams wasn't vice president because he and Washington were all buddy buddy. He came in second in the Electoral College. Can you imagine if we did that now? I think the only thing the orange one would hate more than losing is having a second fiddle to someone with more than 4 brain cells.
Stop! Just stop. I'll do anything. Just stop.
Even watch Captain America 2 Death Too Soon?
Don't put words into my mouth.
And Ben Franklin was not on board with the symbol being an eagle. He thought a turkey would be better.
Our movie begins with stills from the original to remind us what happened, followed by a few flash forwards so that we know what to expect. But from there, we get a full-on 70s opening theme. You know, a long helicopter shot following a van. It makes you think this is the footage they picked up on the way back from shooting the MASH theme. Wait, didn't I make that exact joke in the first Captain America review? Yup, but it's the exact same footage with a few different names put on it. On the plus side, I don't remember Christopher Lee being in the first one. As an even bigger plus, we say so long farewell to Heather Menzies as Dr. Wendy Day, who must be a secret Time Lord because she's regenerated into Connie Selica. 3 minutes in and we've already hit our first continuity error in spite of driving the same length of road for the same amount of time in the same van. Steve winds up at a completely different beach town. This one is a lot more with it. In the first one, it was a ghost town that hadn't seen a tourist since the 50s and 60s beach movie craze. This one's a bit more realistic. Friends are gathered to play volleyball and frisbee. This jackass is carrying around a portable tape deck and skateboarding. And here is our hero, ladies and gentlemen, pursuing his incredibly lucrative career of drawing caricatures of old women at the beach. Skateboard dude bumps into her. She says she thought he was a thief at first. That's been happening a lot lately. Women would get their pension checks, and these guys would steal them as soon as they were cashed. Come on, man. Stop taking jobs from ne'er-do-well sons-in-law. Steve tells her to cash her check because he's got a friend, wink, wink, who might be able to help her with that. She does what he says. The thief shows up as if on cue and wham, bam! 5 minutes in, we get our first chase scene. But a rocket-powered motorcycle versus a dune buggy, not much of a contest. They both get off their vehicles. This guy actually thinks he's going to fight Captain America. He gets a big plastic boomerang frisbee to the back of the head. Unfortunately for Cap, this is a two-man grift. His accomplice gets away and the chase resumes across the beach. Why he doesn't use his motorcycle, I don't know. But you have a guy in a vehicle designed for fast travel in a sandy environment versus a guy in boots that aren't exactly beach casual. Can you guess who wins? Hint, this movie isn't called Nameless Thug 2 Death Too Soon. I know this scene is pointless and adds nothing to the rest of the movie, but I like it. Why? Because it shows Steve Rogers doesn't just do good things at Mills' beck and call. He does them because there's someone in trouble and he has the power to help. He doesn't need any motivation other than that. Another shield stunt. Yeah, you better get used to seeing Captain America making a bunch of cheap shots because this movie has a lot of that. Meanwhile, Mills is at one of his research facilities. He and one of the assistants are trying to get into one of the labs because they realize they haven't heard a word from one of their top scientists who is doing top secret research in over a month. They get into the room and find the lab is trashed. Wait, they think that's trashed? Imagine if they had seen my college apartment. Before any clues are even found, Mills gives up. He says, we're all fucking useless. We might as well get Steve Rogers. A second after he says that, he finds some acid and a broken piece of glass with the name Miguel written on it. Steve shows up. Mills, Steve, and Wendy recap everything we just saw a minute ago, only we get one more vital piece of information. Miguel is the name of a terrorist. At his hideout, Dracula tells Ilson, "You're not going to meet quota. Hurry up. You don't have a choice but to do what I say. Face facts. It's been 3 weeks. The people you expect to come help you aren't coming. My men and I impersonated them. As far as the government is concerned, Renfeld and I were your security detail. We chose the perfect hideout. No one would come looking for an active terror cell inside of a prison." This is the type of old school supervillain mustache twirling that could easily go over the top. It's where the movie has a rare moment of competence. They cast Christopher Lee in the role. He could do the whole supervillain shtick in his sleep. Don't believe me? Do yourself a favor. Go watch Detonator, aka Death Train. You guys are gonna make me review Detonator at some point, aren't you? It's not like I have a copy on DVD or anything. Back at the lab, Mills and Wendy try to tell Steve who Miguel is. It turns out his name is not a case of cultural appropriation. The man has more conflicting backstories than Kaiser Soze, and more aliases than Sean Combs, assuming he's one guy, which some people doubt. He could be like the Dread Pirate Roberts. They also tell him what Ilson was working on. a cure for aging. So I guess the Strategic Scientific Reserve is a government agency that exists to put Neutrogena out of business. Ilsen's experiments required certain chemicals. Their import is highly restricted, and the only place you can get them is Ecuador. But what do you know? A ship with a really long rap sheet for smuggling just came in from there. Maybe Steve should go check it out. Meanwhile, Frankenstein and Igor are saying that Ilsen's reluctance to help them isn't slowing them down too much. Now that they've coerced him, he's playing ball now. And the true irony is that once their plan reaches phase 2, the government will be bankrolling its own destruction. And what is their grand plan? Weaponized aging. They plan to do a test run on a major city in the morning, but first they're going to send a small sample to the president to show they mean business. Meanwhile, Steve is snooping down by the docks, but he's real polite about it. He arrived on set early and the actors are still shooting a safety video for Centron. So he goes off and changes into his Captain America costume so they can begin their fight scene. Good old Cap climbs a crane and does a bunch of gymnastics because, I'm not really sure. Your guess is as good as mine. And he uses that shield. That's what I don't get. In the comics, it makes sense because the shield is made of nigh indestructible Wakandan vibranium. But here, Captain America's mighty shield is obviously flimsy plastic. Two of the bad guys are smart. They know going hand to hand or even entering a gunfight with Captain America is a losing battle. So they try to kill him with the forklift. When the fight is over, Cap opens up the crate, takes a sample of the drugs inside, and plants a tracking device. Back at the lab, Wendy was examining two identical children's finger paintings under a microscope and realizes these are the chemicals they expected to be there. Back at the docks, the dock workers are explaining to the security guys how much having Cap show up really sucked for them. But for a mere $20 in tips, the security guys let them leave with the drugs. But do you know what really sucked for them? Steve was watching the place. The bad guys are driving along. They get on their CB radios and contact their handlers. Steve pursues, but not in a way that is, pursuey. It's more of a, yeah, I know you guys are drug runners. I'm just gonna go for a casual evening drive in the same direction you're headed, sort of thing. They look at him and nod even as they make the drop. Steve drives on unawares. He ends up in Nowheresville. He sleeps in his van for the night. The next morning he gets up nice and early to make a painting of his cat. Wait, you're telling me he brought his cat along on a stakeout when he knew it could turn into a battle at any moment? Stupid man. Kittens are indiscriminate killers. He was just as likely to eat Steve as he was the bad guys. The thugs start hassling Steve with that old nice painting. Shame if something were to happen to it routine. Steve said he only stayed for the night because his cat wasn't feeling well. He thought he'd see a vet in the morning. They tell him the vet is on vacation. And just to make sure he gets the point, they vandalize his painting. Steve goes for their calm drive and finds that the vet office is not only open, but very crowded. He asked a woman on the street what's going on, and she said, "You're better off just going up the road to Greenwood." Her son says, "But that town sucks. We have the best riding trails." Steve waits around a bit. When they come back out, he asks the woman about the riding trails. Again, She tells him to leave her the f alone. Steve finally gets in to see the vet. He says he thinks some part of the cat's foot is broken. The vet says no, it's just a minor sprain, but he's still more used to horses, sheep, and goats than dogs and cats. He should go to Greenwood. Steve calls Mills to recap everything we've seen for the last 20 minutes. In return, Mills tells him about all the stuff that Universal couldn't afford to shoot. You know, like the formula works and Miguel wants $1 billion in exchange for the antidote. And the plan isn't what you'd expect. He's not developing an immortality serum that he can just sell to the elite. Oh no, it's weaponized rapid aging. He's going to use it on Portland, Oregon if he doesn't receive the money by tomorrow. So Steve is in Mayberry looking for a boarding house. He asks people if there are any abandoned farmhouses or anything like that nearby. They tell him, hey, we know all about you going around asking questions and we told you, scram, go to Greenwood. It turns out the owner is the same lady from before. She apologizes and Steve says, hey, no problem, but FYI, that veterinarian doesn't know anything about animals. He doesn't know the name of a common beetle from a bone in a cat's foot. Meanwhile, Wendy is playing with the lion cub that had been sent to the president. Only it's not so little now. Like, a second ago, it was singing, I just can't wait to be king. And now it's at that Can You Feel the Love Tonight stage. And in about an hour, it'll be collecting Social Security. Back in Green Acres, the thugs are back to hassling Steve. He says, fine, I'll leave. I just gotta go get my things. They follow him back to his van just to make sure he gets the hell out of Dodge. And then they're really stupid and attack him. This forces him to go all Roadhouse on them. The whole town is watching. We get another pointless chase scene. Everyone is running everywhere, only the guys have metal bats, crowbars, and tire irons, but this is fine by Steve. He lures them up to a deck surrounding the upper portion of a building. Then he leaps to the ground and uses his enhanced strength to kick out the support pillars. The thugs all go kersplat before they're hauled off by the cops. Helen says, come with me, I'll take care of you. And you know from her voice, yeah, she will alright. And we get another super calm drive. Once Steve is all cleaned up, Helen says, it doesn't look as bad as I thought. Steve said, yeah, it's like that most of the time. Cough, not wanting to give superhero identity away, cough. His clothes were all torn up in the fight, so she gives him one of her late husband's old shirts. Helen makes dinner. Steve decides to go help Pete with his chores, but uses that as an excuse to get their story. Pete says Mom hasn't been the same since Dad died. She's been real sad. No kid, you're supposed to be. Pete decides to go check on the lamb so that Helen can talk to Steve. They barely begin their conversation when they hear Pete scream. They walk in and see a dead sheep. Not only that, there's one more than there was supposed to be. Pete thinks it's the one they lost 3 weeks ago because of a mark in its wool. Helen says no, that was a young lamb. This is an old sheep. But Pete insists that Whitey is dead. Wait, Whitey died? I'm pretty sure passing away so soon after winning the All-Star patch would be considered a technical foul. Meanwhile, Saruman and the orcs find out Steve is still around. Miguel says Mr. Rogers cannot be allowed to leave town, which rarely happened anyway. There was that time he went to meet Coco the gorilla, There was that time you went to Russia, and wait, he was talking about Steve Rogers, not sorry, but dude, imagine it. A villain played by Christopher Lee versus Fred Rogers. That would make this movie 1,000 times better. The police come to arrest Steve for assault. General Benin says that's not good enough. So the police chief leaves the thug's door wide open and leaves the keys to Steve's cell just lying there. He knows nature will take its course. Or it would, but by the time they get there, Steve is gone. He bent the window bars between shots and escaped. And changed his clothes because he's Cap now. He's just really lucky the thugs are dumb. They see Steve Rogers is gone, Captain America has shown up, and think that Cap has rescued Steve Rogers. But I don't care how unbelievably stupid these guards are because it's theme song time! The goons head to their cars and call their handlers. They decide to call in the entire squad for a really awesome chase scene. Well, if by awesome chase scene you mean slow-paced convoy that obeys the speed limit through the countryside down by the county dam. Which is, of course, where they plan their ambush. They lure Steve off the road and he plummets into the water. Just to make sure he's dead, they start shooting at him. They must have never watched Mythbusters because they would have known better. They might as well have been shooting a brick wall. At the lab, Wendy and the White House guy who brought in the lion cub determined that Miguel wasn't lying. The cub is now fully grown. Wendy gets to work on the antidote. Mills is concerned about Miguel's next move. After all, this is a TV movie and they're nearing the commercial break that divides the first and second act. Hours later, Wendy hasn't made much progress. White House guy says we do not negotiate with terrorists. And I agree, nothing good can come from it. As far as I can tell, in this case, the only change to Portland would be that the 5 p.m. Murder, She Wrote reruns are about to become the most popular show in town. No, wait, this is Portland. The only difference would be that people would be watching it unironically. Oh yeah, and all that progress or non-progress Wendy made, Miguel knows about it. No one bothered checking the lion cub for bugs. So he's been listening in the whole time. Miguel calls his flight crew and tells them to start dropping their chemtrails. The pilot radios back and says, "Yes sir, Mr. Luthor." Mills gets a call from Miguel. That's right, he just calls up a top secret research facility. He says, "I was going to charge you $1 billion for the antidote, but that was before I dropped the gas. There's more demand now, so I'm going to have to charge you twice that. But I'm a nice guy. I'll send you a free sample of the antidote so you can test it. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye." A short time later, Amazon Prime drops it off. Wendy does some tests on it and says, "I have no idea what this is. It's either the antidote or the Colonel's 11 herbs and spices." Since they don't know what's in it, they can't duplicate it. They have 2 more samples left. Wendy says she'll have to test one on herself when she gets to Portland, but she does know a way to be 100% sure that it works. Back on the farm, Helen arrives home. Steve is waiting for her. He confronts her about the sheep and the gas. He says he's figured the whole thing out. She has to tell him the truth because he can help. it's not just about her town. It's about the country, if not the world. She says Portland wasn't the first city exposed, we were. It's been going on for weeks. Hello, continuity error, since Ellison's formula didn't work until 2 days ago. And she says he's right, that the vet isn't really a doctor. He's a drug peddler who gives people and animals just enough of the antidote that it's not a one-time fix. Whitey died because he ran away. Steve finds out the vet leaves town every couple of days to get more. So he comes up with a plan to find out where the lab is. He just needs to look at the car's odometer. A responsible adult would do this themselves. So of course, Steve lets Pete get into the car with the blackmailing drug dealer instead. At Portland Hospital, Wendy finds a pair of identical twins. She decides to test the one remaining sample on just one twin. That way, they'll have a control for the experiment, which is sort of a biochemical version of Einstein's twin paradox. One twin is now significantly younger than the other. The doctor helping her with this pretty unethical experiment says, "Well, it worked. When do we get more?" She says, "That's not my department. Go ask Captain America." Speaking of Steve, he checks out the vet's car. He looks at the odometer. He starts fondling the tires. No, not like that. He's just trying to find out how inflated they are and get some residue samples. He goes back in the house and examines the evidence with Helen. They get out a map. They know the round trip can be no more than 50 miles. Not only that, they would need a certain kind of dirt, pollen, and fresh tar. She says that doesn't make any sense because the only place in that distance that would have all those things is an old prison. And I don't buy that. She clearly has a TV in the house. And people have been making fun of the fact that every police procedural does a break into prison episode as far back as the early 1970s. Steve asks her what she knows about the old prison. She says not much, just that they got a new warden recently. Steve finds this a bit suspicious. I guess people never retire or get new jobs in the 70s Marvel television universe. Steve asks her for directions. She begs him not to go. She doesn't want him getting hurt. He says he's got a friend who helps him out in situations like this. They kiss, but it seems a bit awkward and chaste. Luke and Leia had more passion in it. And I mean the kiss in Empire Strikes Back, not A New Hope. And then Captain America gets on his motorcycle and drives off to...
Jess, I have a question.
Oh?
He was on a motorcycle when he went in the water, right?
Yeah.
And it sank in some deep water.
So?
So how did he get it out of the reservoir? It's been almost 2 hours. It's not like Mills guys had time to dive in there, fish it out, and do repairs.
Does it really matter?
That depends on if you want a logical and consistent narrative.
Why go for logical and consistent narrative when you can have and that gets us to the prison. Steve waits for someone else to go to the checkpoint, then turns on the rocket booster and zooms in before the gate closes. Miguel is pissed that Captain America is still alive. He orders the goons to gas him, but triple the dose. That should compensate for the super soldier serum. Then comes the best part. Remember how awesome that bit from the first one where he played with the oil pipe was? That's got nothing on this. He motorcycles into the prison Fonzie style and chases off bad guys. The scientists start gassing the animals. Now they have these big dogs to attack Cap. Captain America goes into the yard. All the goons are ordered there for a fight. But does that stop him from going inside? There's about 15 minutes left in this movie and 2 more casual driving scenes. So what do you think? Miguel begins his escape. He orders all aged weapons be brought to him and all notes concerning the antidote be destroyed. That way they can set up shop somewhere else and no one can stop them. Because that's what makes a hero. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Those big dogs attack Steve, but they're pretty useless. They don't stop him from rescuing Ilson at all. Once he's free, they go to the lab, but all the equipment and notes are gone. Steve races to his motorcycle to catch up with Miguel, but just like in the Captain America arcade game, the goons just respawn. At one point, he just walks past the guy, picks up a bag of flour, and uses it to make a primitive smokescreen. He hops on his cycle, pulls a hang glider out of the back, and just takes off. So he either made those adjustments in advance or found the 10 minutes to make them in his pockets?
Does Captain America's uniform even have pockets?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I did some digging. A hang glider motorcycle seems like a Hollywood myth, but glider bikes are a real thing. Are they as fast as the one in this movie? No. But the Americycle is essentially a motorcycle with a controlled JATO engine, so maybe it would work. If they used real glider bike footage, even sped up, good on them, but it does look suspiciously like a Captain America toy available in toy aisles across the country in the late 70s and early 80s.
You aren't saying it was a cynical ploy to sell toys, are you?
Of course not. This movie was made in 1979. The FTC had all sorts of regulations to prevent that sort of thing. If it had been made in 1980, that'd be a whole other story. The flight is so tranquil that I half expect Captain America to run into Gonzo and his balloons up there. Well, it's tranquil for Captain America. Miguel is wishing he wore his brown suit. You know what I'm talking about because he almost, when Cap lands. And that's when the chase really begins. They calmly drive all over everywhere until they end up at the Ford backlot at Universal, home to such classic films as The Great Outdoors, and at least one episode of Quantum Leap, which is a show I really feel I should get around to reviewing at some point.
Haven't we been over this? Forget it.
I don't remember that. Captain America tracks Miguel on foot. Miguel raises his gun and says he's won. He's got a gun and Captain America is an unarmed man. Somebody get that man an NRA membership card.
I hate to interrupt again, but he called Captain America an unarmed man.
Your point?
Look at his hand. You see that?
You mean his shield? Yeah, I see where you're going with this. And you'd be right. Miguel takes aim at Cap, who readies his shield. Miguel throws the aging serum. Captain America throws his shield through the container, which splashes all over Christopher Lee, who starts looking like the Crypt Keeper. Now I'm wondering why they didn't get him for that role on Tales from the Crypt. No offense to John Kazier, but Christopher Lee would have been so much cooler. It turns out Miguel had a buddy in a helicopter. He comes to get him, sees what happened, and immediately raises his white flag. Steve goes back to the farm. Helen is riding horses again. Not only that, she's happy. Probably because she's been getting some of Captain America's flagpole. Steve asked Pete if he's thought about getting a new pet since Whitey died. Pete says pets are for babies. Of course, he immediately changes his mind when he sees the new puppy Steve brought with him. And that's it. That's the movie. Verdict time!
No!
Would I say this is a good movie? No. Is it better than the original? Hell yeah. The first movie obviously spent about 90% of its budget on the motorcycle and another 5% on Red Brown's giant clear plastic frisbee. The sequel spends most of its money on Christopher Lee. I think we can all agree which is a better use of your buck.
By the way, the correct answer is going to the community center or fairgrounds for the fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
What's the thing I miss most about the 4th of July? I access some of the memories of my organic counterpart, and he's easily distracted by loud noises and flashing lights, so I'm pretty sure he'd say fireworks.
Well, the fireworks are something special. I remember one time when I was working traffic control for the city, I got to see them going off in the middle of a thunderstorm. The fireworks had already started when the storm rolled in. The whole system was automated. They couldn't safely disable it. It was gorgeous. But I realized it's not just one thing that I miss.
You're saying it's the fireworks, the food, and the time you spend with your family?
Yeah, apart from that last one, I miss all those things.
Maybe watching Captain America movies could be our new 4th of July thing.
Inconceivable! We just reviewed the second one. There are no more left.
Are you going to tell him or should I?
Tell me what?
There are 5 more Captain America movies. There is a serial from 1944, the 1990 movie by 21st Century Films, and 3 within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not counting all his appearances in other Marvel films, like The Avengers.
What is he talking about?
Never mind. What are we doing next month?
One of the movies picked by the crew. But which one? Maybe we should do my organic counterparts pick.
Why? Which one is that?
Ice Pirates.
In late August or early July, the hottest month of the year.
Got a problem with that?
No. Sounds like a great way to beat the heat. Ice Pirates it is.